Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee on March 9th of 2017. And what I want to talk about today is prophecy and the Bible calendar and the signs in the land. Before we get started, while people come into the live stream, the four-star Army General of the U.S. Army, Scarpalotti, who's the Supreme Commander of NATO. In other words, they actually have a title, Supreme Commander. Heil, mein Kommandant. You know, I mean, that's pretty, but they do have it. Supreme Commander of NATO. And he came to Israel yesterday. And he met with our military general head and President Rivlin. I don't know where Netanyahu was. I think Netanyahu was with Putin. So they had a meeting and they did some PR pictures. And I would caution you not to go out and assume that this was just a run-of-the-mill visit. I don't think so. Lieberman goes and meets with the head military guys in the U.S. Netanyahu goes and talks to Putin. And now this, and the United States has placed more boots on the ground American soldiers, Marines maybe, into Syria. They're there now, and they have artillery, and they're going to be supporting the rebel forces that they prefer, or whatever they're going to be doing. A war on ISIS. Assad is actually warring against ISIS as well, because he doesn't want to be killed and overthrown by them. The United States doesn't seem to have a lot of use for ISIS or Assad. It appears to me they're going to carve up Syria. And Assad will probably be left with a peace for now. That's their plan and intention. We'll see. Okay, we'll just have to see what happens. It's often a waste of time to listen to the news, because these things are disguises. These visits are a ruse, like the military. I mean, the last I don't know, 10 years or so, I've been watching the news carefully, or however long it's been. Probably 10 years. The all these provocative military maneuvers have been going on, and missile testing, and everybody scaring each other by saying, oh, we're going to have a nuke, and we got a nuke, and this and that. Pakistan tells people they got nukes. You think Pakistan wouldn't use them? Come on, guys. You know, if they had nukes, they would have used them long before now. So I don't pay attention to the news that much. This provocative behavior by the Iranian go-fast boats against 3 UK warships and 1 American ship, where instead of engaging, they turned around, it makes perfect sense to me. I think it really happened, and I think that Trump, for one, and probably the woman PM of the UK, May, realizes, probably through Trump, that the Iranians are fairly hopeless. You're going to either become an Iranian, and that's impossible because all they care about is Iran, or you're going to be against them because they're an enemy of yours. So I believe Trump would categorize himself as an enemy of Iran. And, you know, the most intelligent action here is to regroup. Okay, you want us to turn around, we'll turn around. Go out, get another 15 vessels, come in there, put Iran on notice that if any of your boats get within a mile, we're going to shoot them out of the water. Iran will inevitably do it, and then you shoot them out of the water, and then see what Iran does next. They do attack Israel. And it appears they're in the attack on the United States. Remember, the names of the countries are going to vary because the Bible's going to use older Bible names. So the names for these countries and these regions that were given to Zechariah and Ezekiel can be different, but it appears to be more or less the same region. And it's pretty much more or less all the nations where the Jews have been scattered to. So they'll get in there. And it's doom and gloom, Russia, the whole lot of them. As I see an attack coming on the U.S. and then coming on Israel, they might actually, we might see Trump trying to ally themselves with Israel. They need an ally in the Middle East now. Our military is crackerjack. They're in a high state of readiness. Our equipment is not in disrepair. Our troops are combat seasoned. We know the enemy. We got the intel. We got boots on the ground intel. We got informants. We got technical surveillance. We got it all. So if you're going to go play games in the Middle East, you would do well to have Israel as an ally. And Trump and his generals realized that. Also, they could utilize Israel's airstrips. That wouldn't be, we have underground ones and other stuff, I'm told. So they could come here, and also our air defenses are extremely strong. So they're, you know, not going to have to worry about their planes getting wiped out in a hangar. It's my understanding that Israel can fly circles around the S-300 missile systems now and not be bothered by it. Although I do observe they fly at much higher altitudes, but that might not be anything you want to refer to as being bothered by it. It's an adaptation more than it is anything else. And it's not a major one. So they, you know, they are a little bit put off by this, but I wouldn't think it's anything major. They got to be careful with their altitude because it takes time for these. It takes time for these ships to, these missiles to launch and gain altitude. It plays havoc with their food supply, their fuel supply, and then the aircraft can go to the deck, and it's got to follow them down to the deck, and that creates more havoc and problems and issues and stuff like that, which they don't like. The weather in Israel right now is in the 80s. We were thinking that it was shifted already to springtime, and it certainly feels like it has. The offset to that would be minor, and that is they're expecting, I think on the weekend, 3 days of rain, which is going to result in cooling things off. I don't know. I'm holding off on getting Chief's haircut until I see whether or not this rain cooled things off or not. I don't want to get the guy cool. We're not going to have air conditioning weather, I don't think, until well into June or June, middle of June or something like that. August and September are bad months. So Chief will hold on, you know, a few more days anyway. Some of you know my wife and her work, and some of you have picked up that my wife and I are not in full agreement on the 13th month and the intercalculating of this. And I think this thing needs to be explained. The first thing is my wife's motivation for doing this with the barley and the wheat and the other crops in Israel for going out and doing boots on the ground observations is to show the comparisons between the agriculture and Yeshua being the literal first fruits, versus the first fruits that would be used to symbolize Yeshua. You can't say that Yeshua is symbolizing agriculture. That's reversing it. It's the agriculture is showing the work that Yeshua did as the first fruits. So we have to understand that's the primary motive of what she's after. All right? On the way, we've been doing the new moon, and we've been getting 30-day months during the year. And as some of you remember, in September, there was a big upset with these Karaite Jewish guy and some other people that are playing games with the sighting. Now, those of you that were around for it remember that, you know. And it was completely wrong what they did. Now, they have an opportunity to throw, the rabbis won't listen to these people, but they do have an opportunity to throw Messianics and whoever listens to them into disarray by fudging things, okay? Now, I don't know who exactly has done this, but some of these goofy shmegegis have in the past put a weed killer on barley to see where the fields people were observing to destroy it. Others try to spot barley growing in an incorrect location where there's a lot of concrete. It's going to retain a lot of heat from the sun and bring the barley to fruition much faster than it normally would be doing, and it's not a correct instrument of calibration of the barley, because it's not a field where one would normally go in and harvest it. We were someplace this morning, I don't remember where we were anymore, a post office or some parking lot, and there was barley growing between, oh, it was a supermarket, there was barley growing. We were in the parking lot, we had a spot, and then there was a little barrier fence, nothing substantial, and then between the barrier fence and something else, I believe we saw a barley growing. Now, this isn't the correct location to look to see if the barley's a bead, because with all this concrete and heat, the water wouldn't be correct, and you know, the rain and all that wouldn't be right. And we've heard of some of these shmegegis actually using locations of this sort to do it. So they're trying to take control. Now, narcissistic sociopaths that serve the gods of the dead, that preach in these churches, that write books and sell them and make merchandise out of people, they love to always be in control. And this is something where they can get control in a big way and turn turn the people away from the 13th month into a 13th month, or whatever they want to do. Now, they, in my opinion, the way me as a Levite read the scriptures, there's no 13th month. The way they get there is they seem to get there also on a new moon. I don't quite understand how. Last month I counted 30 days. From January 29 to the evening of January 29, we saw it. Then we saw it again February 27 in the evening. Now, the way I counted it was over and over. That's how I came up with it. Okay. Now, other people came up with a 29th day. All right. Now, personally, I don't care. All right. If it was the 29th day, I'm not going to add a month. If it was the 30th day, I'm not going to add a month. If it's 31st day, I'm not going to add a month. I have no scripture in my Bible that tells me to go add a month on this. I have none.
It was 29 days your teaching error.
Yeah, my wife insists it was 29 days. The way I counted it, I got 30. Okay, you can count it for yourself. Okay, from we saw the moon, or the moon was seen January 29th at around 5, a little bit after 5 in the evening, and then it was spotted at a similar time in the evening on the 27th. Do your own counting. Come up with your own count, okay, and see what you get, okay? That's all I can tell you. But when you do the counting, bear in mind that the first, when you see it, that's day 1, okay? That's all I got to say on that. Do your own counting. Don't take my count. If it's 29 or it's 30 days, it doesn't, to me, make a difference that I could discern, except I would say that if it's in the 29-day thing, or 28 or 31 or whatever, or something other than 30 days, its God is still skewering or messing up the calendar so people can't observe the Moedim. Okay? Now, in addition, we can't observe the Moedim because there's no temple, there's no altar, there's no priesthood. So you can't do the Moedim, but there are some things you can do. I've explained this a million times. You can do Shabbat, you can do kosher, eat kosher, okay? And you could eat unleavened bread during that period of time and observe the Shabbats and so on and so forth. You cannot appear before the Lord. You cannot go up to the Temple Mount. All this stuff does not exist. Okay? Not now. Okay? So let's get that straight. So when people say they're observing various Moedim, invariably they're partially observing it. And you can't really partially follow the law. But we do it, or I do it, out of respect to the Lord. And I do what I can do. All right? That's what I want to say. Now I can give you some commentary about why I think the Lord would arrange things for the barley to be non-abib, or not ready. Okay? It says in the scriptures, Leviticus 23, I'll start in verse 9. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. Now, you obviously cannot do this, okay? And what priest? What temple? And he shall wave the sheaf before Jehovah to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it. So when you bring this from the harvest, the first fruits, okay, and you do the sheaf offering before the Lord, it's for you to be accepted by the Lord. Now, when you don't have, you have a calendar, you see a new moon, you count so many days to the Moedim, and when you don't have the harvest of that crop, let's say the barley, it's not ready, then you can't appear before the Lord, you and your whole neighborhood, you and your whole tribe, you and everybody, because you have nothing. So you're not supposed to appear before the Lord empty-handed. So this is a sign that something is wrong in Israel. Now, the rabbis needed to make amendments to the law with their own perverted psychopathic thinking to not really have the people understand how out in left field they really are, how off they are. So they confuse the people. This is a doctrine of demons that the rabbis came up with to confuse the people. Instead of telling them, we're the rabbis, we sit in Moses' seat, we change the law, we do this, we do that. They're getting them off from the fact that they're not accepted by the law, by the Lord. So, okay, they say, well, the barley's not ready. Ein bayad, no problem. We'll just wait another month. We'll intercalculate. I think that they made this word up. I never heard of this word in the English language, but they use that intercalculate or something to add a 13th month. Makes it sound official, like when you see a crazy cloud formation with all the fire in the clouds and scary looking, they'll come up with a name for it. They'll say it's a strato mushroom kill arborino cloud or something, right? And then the people say, oh, they know what it is. Well, they don't know what it is. Maybe it's absurd. It's a scary cloud. It's a sign. So they get the people off of this, and they make a Farmer's Almanac calendar. And they do stuff like that. Others, like the Karaites, oh, the barley's not ready. No problem, we just add another month. That's what they do. Now, what effect does this have? Well, for one, you don't know where you are with Shemitah and Jubilee years. If you're following this, you don't know. You're confused. Now, maybe that's God's intention, but I'm not so sure it is. I don't think it is. The next thing is God gave us a firm prophetic sign that I've talked about till I'm blue in the face. Zechariah 1:12, the 70 years. Now, mind you, there's nobody out there on the internet, in YouTube, talking about this with anything resembling appropriate closeness to it. Nobody. 18 years after coming out of Babylon, in any event, the years of Darius, the second year of Darius, they've been out of Babylon, out. And they already started working on the temple, I believe. And then there's this prophecy about the 70 years. Well, what the heck is that about? They're finished with the 70 years. And the way it reads is, I'll read it to you. Let's read it. It's Zechariah 1:12. Put it another way. Okay. Then the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Jehovah of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah against which thou had indignation these 70 years? Well, let's look at this. He previously had Cyrus conquer the nation of Babylon, actually by sneaking under a diverted river under their wall, and the loss of life was close to zero. It was very minimal, if any. So the Israelites living in Babylon were not killed. They had catapults, they shot arrows, they threw various kinds of fireballs and firebombs in there. Undoubtedly, if they laid a serious siege to the city, the Israelites would have got killed. In addition, they could have blocked off the city and cut the water supply and the food supply and starved them out. Because this 70 years was over, God didn't want that. So Cyrus came and gave them a pretty peaceful liberation. The Babylonians didn't even know they were conquered for some days. And if that wasn't enough, he told them to go back to Israel, to build the temple. He went to Nebuchadnezzar's treasuries, which were in his control, and he found all the artifacts from the old temple, Solomon's temple, and gave it to them and said, here, take this with you. Plus, here, let's get you some gold and silver. Okay? And that sounds like he was giving them mercies. All right? Now, also remember when we do Daniel 9:24, not the churchianity garbage. We see it says Shavim Shavim, 2 70s. That's what it reads in the Hebrew. All the English translations are messed up and they say 70 weeks. I don't know how in the world they get there. This is the kingpin of false doctrine from churchianity. This is their pivot scripture. All their crackpot Mishigas garbage is based on Daniel. And it says Daniel's a sealed book until the time of the end. Daniel is still sealed. When you start believing it's not sealed, then you start giving place to the devil. And then they start laying all this garbage on you. So it's 2 70s. All right? Shavim, Shavim. The first 70 was in Babylon. And that's where Daniel was when this is written. And the second 70 is found in Zechariah 1:12. And if you read Daniel, well, I'm not going to go back into it, but so they've got all this garbage. And how are you going to calculate this stuff if you're running around with a 13-month year, a 12-month year, and so forth? Well, if we argue that in Revelation the tree will bear all manners of fruit and the leaves for the healing, and I'll have 12 different fruits, one each month, we got a 12-month year. If you go to the 42 months and 1260 days, representing 3.5 years, you got it again over there. You got the 30-day month with Noah, with the 5 months, 150 days. But the argument would be, well, in Revelation, things are restored, and in the days of Noah, things were restored, and that's a good argument. There's nothing wrong with that argument. That is a valid argument, okay? But I think the way we do it is when we see the new moon, which happened on 27th of February, we flip into a new year, okay? And I know that it says the beginning of the year is Abib. The first month of the year is called Abib. But it doesn't say if you don't see the barley Abib, you should add a 13th month. Okay, I don't know what would make somebody think of that from reading the scriptures. It's completely not there. There's other people that do things like they add leap years to the Bible. I don't know where they get that from the scripture either. And people add days. They have 365.25 days. It says that they'll change the times and the seasons. Well, they're changing the times. What does it say? Times and seasons. I know it says change the times. And I think they're changing the times many different ways. So, if I don't see it in the scriptures, I'm not going to set forth and modify that. I don't even see it anywhere. There's people that come up and they say, well, the Sabbath is not 6 days of rest and 1 day of work. It's, you go by a moon or something like that. So when you do that, you wind up with as much as 8 or 9 days of work and then a day of rest. Well, that breaks the scripture. It can't be that. Do you understand? You can't have 8 or 9 days of straight work and then 1 day of rest. That is a complete wacko doctrine. But people adhere to it. Where do they pick this up? They pick it up from people that want to go on a power trip and see how they can pervert the children of God that are trying to follow the times and the seasons. You would have no ability to follow any Shemitah Jubilee year business or any prophetic time period if sometimes they were thrown 13th months in and sometimes they weren't. There's no clear, the Bible doesn't say, in the event the Bible is not Abib on this date, then you must add another month. And this is a punishment for the children of Israel. Well, it doesn't say any of that. It doesn't say anything. It's just you're going to have to appear before the Lord empty-handed because God is not pleased with the children of Israel. But that's not even the case because you have no place to appear to. Where are you going to appear? On the Dome of the Rock and start waving something? It's insane, guys. There's no place to appear with it. So the roots of this, in my opinion, have come from the Talmudic rabbis trying to make the people think that there's nothing wrong.
They don't even get a week at the barley or the moon's end.
They don't what?
They don't even get a week at barley or moons. It's not Talmudic or rabbinical.
You, I don't understand the word wink.
They don't go by that. They go by that calculation.
Oh, they go by a farmer's almanac they made.
They don't go by barley. They don't go by moon. They go by the calculation.
Well, you mean it's like they sit down and they project it for the next 20 years, right?
Yes, it's mathematical. It is not by a sighting of any kind.
Yeah, it's a farmer's almanac type thing. And the farmer's almanac type thing is to steer the people away from trying to understand that they would have to appear before the Lord empty-handed. When I say a farmer's almanac thing, they just sit down and write it out, and show you where it's going to be. They don't go out and do the moon spotting and stuff like that. Now, we are seeing a little bit of a transition here, but it's in the smallest minority. The Sanhedrin, the 70, are moon spotting. We know this, okay? And the Karaite Jews, who deny Yeshua, by the way, they do it also. But you're talking about a very small minority. It's not a large amount of people, okay? But the Sanhedrin is a relatively new development, and I welcome it. So far, I welcome it. We'll see where it goes. That's the 70. And we read in Isaiah 1 that there'll be counselors again. And originally there were 70 counselors with Moses and Aaron, or Moshe and Aaron. His name's Aaron. It's not really Aaron, but it's close. Some of the Jewish names in the English versions are close, and some are not. Solomon is Shlomo. That's not close. David is David. That's close. Avraham is Abraham. That's close. Okay. Moses is Moshe. That's not close. So, Jonathan is Jonathan. Yeah, it's kind of almost close, but not really close. So my wife does her own thing, and she is getting deluged with people that bother her. They try to tell her how to spot the moon and how to do things. They try to suck her dry for information. It's annoying. So she's cutting people off that are trying to drain her. That's all. The orphanage situation, again, if you sent blankets or a package like that, it's a good idea to go you find your receipt and check online with the tracking and see if it got delivered and it was picked up. There may be, we don't know exactly who sent what. We know people were saying they were going to send stuff, we don't know what happened, but it would be a good idea to go in and pull the tracking numbers and see what all is going on. You know, that's all. She's in process of moving or something, and she's getting, in our opinion, you know, a little over controlling, overzealous with the fundraising, and you know, we're not told to carry this project completely, so we did what we could to help, and the problems that she has with the Muzzies may or may not be due to the fundraiser. They could be, because she wasn't being discreet. She was trying to contact everybody she could, and she could have gotten some of the church witches that were coming around, which is another reason why I didn't want that chat on there, you know. And then she was sending pictures, and they could have gone after her. You got to remember, these church witches are like their father, the devil. They're liars and they're murderers. The devil was a murderer from the beginning and a father of lies, and they will be the same way. You must understand that. They are the same way. Just because they put a coat and tie on and they get up in front of the pulpit and they talk to you really nice and sweet, they're preaching another Jesus, they're preaching another gospel, there's another spirit running around in their church, and they hate you because they're lying to you. And that's what Scripture teaches us. When they lie to you, they hate you. Okay? That's what Scripture teaches us. So you have to remember that. And you have to be very careful with this, with these people. Ever since I stopped doing the news, although I really do spend a few minutes on the news every day, but till I don't put the news in the headline of the video and stuff, the views have really plummeted, because I'm just teaching Bible, and you know, I teach Bible out of the Bible with the verses, and I read the verses and I give the verses, and people don't like that. People don't want that. They want, the Bible's not interesting. They want other things. So these are the ones that go out from among you because they were not of you. That's what they do. So I expect we'll still do, you know, reports on when the new moons are sighted, and that type of thing. I still am, you know, with the 70 years of Zechariah, as I covered yesterday, November 29, 1947, the UN partition plan made this land they called then Palestine a nation with unlimited Jewish immigration. It had a parliament, it had the ability to raise taxes, it could give citizenships out. The British were just leaving. The Israelis could have their own army, and they had their own exclusive territory. Guys, that's a nation. That's a nation. Okay, so that's when I believe Israel was started. Other people tried to go for the May 15th, 1948 Declaration of Independence as the date. I don't quite see that. I could see why somebody would say that, okay, easily, but I don't think it's the correct date, okay. You make your own decisions on that. You know, you can look up the UN partition plan was a resolution, November 29th, 1947. You can look it up and read it yourself, you know. When it comes to a lot of secular matters, you know, you can go read it yourself, you know. it's not a full secular matter. You know, previously with Balfour, the King Edward in England, when Allenby took the land over, the king announces to his subjects in the UK, I give you as a Christmas present Jerusalem. Well, you see, that's not it. Okay, so it wasn't then. Okay. I don't believe the taking of Jerusalem was it either. I think the nation with a parliament, an army, citizenship, raising taxes through customs department, made a country. They had a place that all the Jewish people could come and live. And when the British pulled out, they decided to attack. And attack they did. Right away. 24 hours. So I would say something happened on May 15th that made the Arabs madder and worsened the situation, so to speak. But that's how I see it. So let's see. We know the scriptures tell us Damascus will be a ruinous heap. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. We know it'll happen, but we're not really turned on to any particular date. We know that Jordan is going to be decimated. It's Edom and Moab. That's what Jordan is. And it's going to get decimated too, and it's right next door, in case you're not aware. It's right next door to Syria. So that's going to go. That's going to go. What else do I got here? You think? So the only thing I see, we were out running around today, is the Israelites are, those living here, are acting the same as they did 10, 20 years ago. They're not aware of anything. Most of them are not interested in a two-state, one-state solution. Abbas has no interest in recognizing Israel as a nation. This is pretty much the end of the peace process. Now, if he does do so, that will probably cause him to get killed or thrown out of office, or lose control, or all of the above. So it's very doubtful he'll ever do that. How do you negotiate with an entity that doesn't want to recognize your right to exist as a nation? You can't. So Netanyahu's going to stay away from it. So that's going to mean that we can annex it, which they don't want to do. Minimally annexing it means they're going to give out green cards, as you would call it in the U.S., permanent residency status to these people. They're not going to be able to vote, and whether or not they'd be able to traverse into Israel freely would remain to be seen. They could give it to, they could restrict their activities easy enough. That wouldn't require a whole lot of that wouldn't require a whole lot of well, anyway, I just saw something come in on my phone. I'll mention it. I got to be careful with this stuff because it's you could get caught up in not so much phony news, alarmist news. The scriptures indicate to us in Jeremiah 50:51, referencing the daughter of Babylon, ruler fighting ruler. And this appears to happen before the nation of the United States, the daughter of Babylon, is attacked. Okay? The Jews and those that wish to sojourn with the Jews out of the daughter of Babylon into the land of Yisrael, right? Stopping in the wilderness, will happen before the war, the attack, and a lot of the workmen that are in the United States, the sowers and the reapers, the agricultural, will leave. This is maybe beginning. It doesn't give us an indication that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement people are going to come round them up and drag them out and throw them out of the country. What it's giving us the indication of, by using the words, for fear of the sword, they're leaving. Now, what sword? Is this the sword of the ruler fighting ruler, or the sword of the attacking enemies? Well, it would be the ruler fighting the ruler, because when the attack comes, there's nobody that gets out. Okay? Now, they could possibly, fear of the sword, they could be smelling or seeing or have a premonition of this attack coming and leave, or it could be both. Some could be leaving during the ruler fighting ruler, and some could be leaving when they see the imminent attack coming, if there is such a warning. So there are people that are saying that there's a concerted communist effort in the United States. A concerted communist effort to take over the country. We're recently hearing that Obama wiretapped Trump's offices in Trump Tower or something, his house, his offices. Judge Napolitano, I think it's pronounced, was on a news show, Fox News show, and this guy knows constitutional law. He's a very sharp cookie, and he said that the FBI turned around and told people they knew of no FISA order to tap Trump. Well, Napolitano accurately said, spoke well, and he was saying the FBI chose their words carefully because no such order was written. They didn't say Obama never tapped Trump. They said they knew not of any such FISA, I think is FISA order. That would be the federal wiretap order. Well, Napolitano says they don't need that. The president had the power put in back in the days of Jimmy Carter, I think. It was around that era, where if he felt there was a national security threat, he had the right to order a wiretap, and he didn't have to go anywhere to get permission. So Obama could have ordered a wiretap on Trump's lines just by saying it was some sort of a premonition, you know. Maybe Trump was working with the Russians, and maybe Trump was going to give us trouble, so he could have been working as an agent for a foreign alien enemy or whatever. So they said, Napolitano said, look, if he proves Trump did it, he can't get him. But that's not true. See? That's not true. He can't get him on the wiretap because that's an action that's legal. But the wiretap can be construed to be evidence of a perversion of the election process, of stopping a free election, and that is treasonous and sedition and violates a lot of things. And the president is not allowed to use his status and power to pervert the elections when he's leaving office. That he can't do. And that's what he did. So possibly you can't run him up the flagpole on charges for doing a wiretap, but the motivation of doing the wiretap can be chargeable. I don't think they'll do it, because how are you going to prove that Trump's motive, that Obama's motive was to skewer the election? I don't know how. So Trump ordered Congress, or he asked Congress to investigate it. And he defers from commenting by saying, let Congress do their job and they'll investigate it. Well, that means Trump has nothing to hide. Because Congress is going to leave no stone unturned. Okay? They're not going to do that. All right? And if Trump did anything dirty, they'd find it, because whose phone's records are they going to be scouring through? The Trump offices. So something could be coming of this. You know, Trump's not going to get on the television or on the tweet and say, look, you know, we know that we can't run him up the flagpole for issuing a wiretap order. We know that. But we can run him up the flagpole for perverting an election and using an illegal wiretap to do so. That he could do. That he could do. Along with all the other evidence, like Hillary giving the answers to the debate before the debate. Millions of things. Now, do I think that Trump will charge Obama and or Hillary with crimes? I would be shocked if he ever did that. But the fact that he's turning it over to Congress might mean he's sort of interested in having Congress do it. Do I think they'll do it? No. What good is going to come of it? Not much. Unless it's really true that Obama is still running around creating trouble and trying to promote a revolution, which is what the indication is. This Loretta Lynch, who was Attorney General for a few months, maybe, or something, a year at most, something like that, comes out with a statement, and it's a thinly veiled call to arms about violence in the streets. And that, what was the other one's name? Valerie Jarrett, I think. She moved into the house with Obama. Well, I don't know why. Maybe she doesn't have Secret Service protection anymore. She may be nervous about something. So if she's in the house with Obama, she's got Secret Service protection. It's pretty difficult for a guy like Trump to call the Secret Service up and say, look, some of my friends from New York and Little Italy or Harlem or wherever are going to go kill the Obama and his whole family, or not his whole family, and I want you guys to stand down, let him get in the house and kill him. Well, the Secret Service isn't going to do anything like that. They know there's going to be an investigation of 5,000 pages. 1,800 people are going to be assigned to investigate this, and heads are going to roll. They're never going to agree to it. They'd resign before that happened. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. Why would they do it? So I think Obama is trying to get some kind of a revolution going in the U.S. as hard as he can. Look, he's had Congress thwart Trump on the what do you call it? The secretary's Secretary of State, Secretary of this. He's still having the Congress interfere with the approving of the secretaries by slowing it down. So Trump is still running around without his full cabinet. That's sick. Okay, so they're impeding the operation of the full government from the executive branch because they're up to no good. They're up to playing some game. Let's not kid ourselves here. They're up to something. And you see the Black Lives Matter is acting up. There's right-wing groups that are acting up. But the thing that I see that's eerie in this whole thing is the amount of Muslims living in the United States. It could be as high as 15 million. They've been coming here for, since 9/11. They've had these training camps. There's several million. I'd say there's at least 4 or 5 million of them. And it could be more. And we don't know what kind of arms and military equipment and sabotage equipment and other things they might have because they've come through Mexico with an open border. Now, listen to what I heard here. Mexico is providing instruction manuals or videos to their people in the United States, explaining to them how to avoid getting grabbed by ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And one thing they said, well, if they knock on your door, ring your bell, don't answer the door or the bell. Well, it's immature advice, but it's interesting because what would that do? I'll explain. Who is it? ICE. Open the door, lay down on the floor, ICE, or they might, they knock on the door and you say, who is it? And they say, Ronaldo Rodriguez. And, so what they want you to do is if you hear somebody coming to your door or someone's on your door, look out the peephole and don't answer the door. What does that do for them? Well, the ICE people at a minimum would schedule repeat visits to the house to try to apprehend, right? So they would go back 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know what the limit is. They would at times go back. Now it's normal when you're going around doing this type of work and you want to pick people up, and you go knock on the door and they're not home. Well, then you could start saying, well, we came at 7 o'clock in the morning and that didn't work. Let's go at 6:30 at night and try that. And that doesn't work. Well, then eventually you're going to go 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and see if that works. And then eventually, if that doesn't work, you can sit on the house and wait to see people come out and then grab them. Or you can try to get a warrant to look for said persons in the house. And that wouldn't probably be very difficult if you said that these people are considered dangerous and illegal and this and that, and you want to have a warrant to search the premises for weapons or whatever you wanted to do, and then you get into the house and you see Ricardo or whatever the guy's name is over here, and you say, where's your ID, where's this? Oh, we have an undocumented alien. So incidental to the search, as you're controlling the scene of the search, to protect the agents from weapons and attack, and you want to see if these people have warrants and stuff, that would work. And then you just toss them out of the house. But what it does do is it slows them down. They got to spend 10, 20 times the amount of time on it versus just driving up, knocking on the door, putting them in a van and getting them out. So that's what the Mexican government is trying to accomplish, like the Congress was doing with not approving his cabinet. Slow it down. What are they slowing it down for? What are they waiting to see happen? That's what I'm asking myself. What's the goal here? What's up with this? We're obviously interested in something happening, right? And what's Obama trying to do? What's he up to? don't know what he's up to. I don't know. I don't think any of us really know, but it looks like he's up to something. So Trump came up with a new executive order, and now we're going to wait and see what the courts do. He apparently had his legal team work for several weeks on this executive order, and they may have gone out and retained private counsel, or not, and they could have just found senior members in justice to do it, and they tried to figure out how they could make it bulletproof from the court. You got to understand, there's a lot of people that get out of law school, and they did pretty good in law school, and you know, they're not the top 20 students in their class. They maybe it was 200 students, they came in at 80 or something like that. You know, they're competent people, and they go to work for a Justice Department because it's a pretty secure job. When you work for a big law firm, the problems you'll encounter there for the first 5 or 7 years is you'll be working weekends, you'll be working in the evenings. They'll send you to court in the morning, and you'll go to this room and do this appearance, and you'll go later to there, to there, to... You might do 4 or 5 appearances in a morning, or maybe 2 or 3. A lot of these appearances are just nonsense. Yes, we're responding and file it. So the attorney that appears is not the attorney that wrote the brief. All you're doing is showing up and filing an answer, or you're making a motion for a dismissal or a time extension. You know, a lot of this is what goes on in lawsuits. And they young ones are going around doing this kind of stuff while the senior people are sitting in the offices writing these briefs. And then you come back and you have cases, and then, you know, in the afternoon nothing's going on in the court. So you come back and you start writing yours. Well, nothing's going on. The judges are gone. They're drunk. They're on a golf course, whatever they're doing. They're not doing much. There's some trials that'll be continuing, but the motions and the hearings and all that are usually in the morning. And then there'll be some bail hearings at night. And, you know, it depends where you are. And then in the they start having emergencies, because these people are dealing with clients with deep pockets. They're aggressive, they're plaintiffs, or they're defensive as defendants. And they get into situations of emergencies where they're doing emergency motions. They want to grab somebody's bank account, they want to stop somebody, they want to get a TRO, temporary restraining order, and stop somebody from selling a product or doing a certain type of advertising or whatever, right? And they got to prepare motions to deliver the next morning on an emergency basis. So then what do? They tell you, you're not going home tonight. And they get 3 or 4 of these kids, and they sit there and they have supper delivered to the office. Well, they can have, you know, a $50 meal delivered to the office. They don't care. That's fine. The client pays. They get a $70 meal. They really don't care. They're not going to let you sit there and drink wine, but you could sit there and, you know, have coffee and soda and have a big veal parmesan plate or a T-bone, whatever the heck you want. They don't care. And eat it in the office while you work. And you might stay there till 9 or 10 at night or 12 and prepare everything, get it ready. Your legal secretaries will be there. The clients are paying. And get the whole thing ready. Go home. Go to sleep. Wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning. Come back. Go down to court and file it. And that's the story of their life. That goes on and on and on and on. Do they make a lot of money? Yeah, they make a lot of money. They start out, their first year was $70,000 to $100,000 or $120,000. And then, you know, in their early days, they can make $200,000 with the overtime. you know, if they get through 5 or 7 years of this, they can make junior partner, and they can start making $300,000-$400,000 a year. And then as a junior partner, they rarely would have to stay in the office or work on the weekends. So they could take the sailboat out on the weekends, play golf, go skiing, you know. And then at a 12, 15-year mark, they make a senior partner. And as senior partner, they could start, you know, on Wednesday they can go play golf and come in at 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, or not come in on Wednesday. They could, you know, they're more or less a rainmaker. If you're going to be a senior partner in a big law firm, you're more or less a rainmaker. You're going to have to be good with the law, but you're going to be holding the client's hands and bringing in new clients, and that means you got to win. So you got to sit there and tell the clients with intelligence, this is a lousy case, get out of it. You got a bad position, let's settle, or you got a winner, let's go. You know, this type of thing. So anyway, they could be bringing in law firms to try to help them with this thing and bamboozle the judges. Now, judges are usually not as sharp as the lawyers in a big law firm. They would be as sharp as the lawyers in the Justice Department. Because judgeship doesn't pay that much. Okay, it pays, but it doesn't pay that much. So, okay, a federal judge is making $125, $150 a year. That's a regular, like a circuit court judge, right? Maybe an appellate court judge makes $200, $250. They're not in the, you know, a senior partner in a law firm could make $2-3 million a year. These people are very wealthy and tremendous expense accounts, and a lot of them have offices in multiple cities. They keep corporate apartments in these places. You know, it's a very luxurious life. You got to understand, a politician gets a congressional seat, he's there for 2 years, he's got to rerun again, he may get kicked out. A senator goes for 5 years, and then they could get kicked out, or they could get back in. These guys, like the corporate VPs and presidents and the partners in these law firms, they're there for the duration. It's pretty expensive and not common for them to buy out the junior and senior partners. What they do when they hire the people, the regular lawyers, after 5 or 7 years, they call them in and they say, you know, your performance is acceptable, but it's nothing special. So what we're here to tell you is, if you're satisfied with working at the type of salary you have and you don't mind the overtime, you're welcome to stay here as long as you want, but we're not making you partner. And they mean it. I mean, the guy can stay as long as they want. So it's basically stay there until you get another job. And then they go get another job someplace. So, you know, they could have done that, and they would have outmaneuvered most federal judges from writing such an order. Trump was saying, look, I'm trying to protect the American people. He is. And he's saying that if I fight this judge in court with appeals, it's going to take at least a year. And it would. So they put a stay order on Trump's order so it wouldn't be enforceable. So the smartest thing that Trump could have done is what he did. He wrote a new executive order, which the court has to now go back in and try to figure out what they want to do about it. They could just routinely say, no, quash it. It's illegal for you to enforce this order. Now, they got a problem also because they could get into trouble if the motive can be shown that it wasn't just a legal decision, it was something else. But how the heck are you going to prove that? So there's a lot of people that you could see objectively trying to thwart Trump. A lot of people. It's not hard to see it. It's easy to see it. And that means to me there's some concerted effort to get rid of this guy. Now, can they do it? I don't know. I don't see them going to Congress and getting Congress to impeach Trump. I really don't see that happening. So how are they going to get rid of Trump? I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to make him as ineffective as they possibly can. What will he do about that? I don't know. But I know what the Bible says. That's what I know. Ruler fighting ruler. And it looks like it's developing. And we don't know what Trump and Soros and Clinton, and we don't know what they might be doing covertly. Why is Valerie Jarrett living in Obama's house? That's suspicious. Extremely. I mean, if she was really under threat, she would go to Trump and ask Trump for the protection. And Trump routinely would probably give it to her because of the status that she had. Unless he's really got an axe to grind with him, and that wouldn't happen, and then I don't know what she would do. Move in with Obama, but that's very obtuse. Why is she living in Obama's house? It's not normal. It's not normal. The whole thing with Obama was abnormal. So you got the thing with Iran. That doesn't look healthy with a personality like off-the-chain Mad Dog Mathis and Trump. It doesn't look like a good thing. I don't think these two guys, Mathis and Trump, like Iran pushing their naval vessels around. I don't think the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, that woman named May, likes it either. I don't think they're happy about that. Not in the least. I don't think they're happy with Putin. They're keeping sanctions on Russia. They got constant buildup of troops and armor and tanks on the NATO, with NATO on the border of Russia. It's always increasing. I don't know what they're up to. Turkey seems to be like kind of a lame duck player in Syria. I think what Turkey wants is to walk out of the Syrian conflict with a buffer zone. 5, 10, 15, some odd miles into Syria. So he could keep Katyushas and other junk rockets from shooting into Turkey. Now, that's what I think. If Assad really has sophisticated rockets, then why would Erdogan want a 10 or 15 mile buffer zone? He'd be looking for 30 or 40 or something like that, or even more. So I don't know what's going on. Probably just interested in stopping Katyushas, which, I don't know, 10 miles would do it. 25 miles would stop most of the artillery. I think Netanyahu may very well walk out with the same thing. If they do buffer zones, I expect they'll go 25 miles, but maybe not. Because your artillery is going to go 25. I mean, good artillery like America, Belgium, and UK, and Russia, they can get 25 miles out of this stuff. So they'll do that. Now, the North Korea situation is a mess. We're being led to believe that China told North Korea to cut it out with your missile testing. I don't think North Korea will listen. That would be a fight where Japan and South Korea would heavily be involved. I think you would also see Vietnam and some other countries get into the fracas, including the United States. I seriously doubt Israel would get involved over in that part of the world. I just don't see Israel doing anything like that. But just something came through. North Korea's got some problems with some American destroyer over there with something, I don't know. Netanyahu is currently sitting in Moscow talking to Putin right as we speak here. And this is fundamental. This could have a chance of calming things down. I doubt it. This has a chance of accelerating the next war, as in prophecy. That's what it does, looks to me. And, you know, Trump and Putin are going around, the four-star general of the Marines, the chief of staff, meeting with Erdogan's top general and Putin's. I mean, they're trying to work with Putin. They're telling him, look, Putin, you ain't in control. We's the daughter of Babylon. We're plugged into the whore of Babylon. You listen to us. No, I'm one of the 10 crowns. I'm going to burn your whore and eat her flesh. That's really spiritually what's going on. They're not going to talk to you like that, but that's what's going on. And remember, if you're going to do Russia, China more than likely is going to tag along into it. China will pop a gasket if the U.S. and South Korea and Japan and Vietnam and other people take over North Korea or invade it. They'll go nuts. They'll go nuts. I don't know what they'll do, but they're going to go nuts. They're not going to take it lying down. They're not going to say, oh, it was a good idea. North Korea is a bunch of idiots. They provoked these guys, so be it. No, they're never going to go for that. They're going to freak out because they're going to see hundreds and hundreds of missiles and artillery and tanks, everything else on their border. They're going to go, oh. They're not gonna, I don't think they're going to let North Korea go down like that. So, you know, we could be sitting here seeing prophecy. I mean, we're coming up on, by my reckoning, we're coming up on Pesach, Passover. And, you know, that's indicative of Yeshua. It's indicative of getting delivered from Egypt and having the freedom and the dominion broken off us. And, you know, it ultimately resulted in the destruction of Egypt and Pharaoh's death. And we read in prophecy, he's going to break the yoke off our neck. I don't know, it's going to happen sooner or later. Passover would be a pretty appropriate time for it. Hey, honey, could you, I have something kind of a personal nature to tell you.
You're gonna do it on the air? Okay.
No, I'm gonna type it on here for a second. It's not, okay, I got another way to do it. Could you step over and I'll show it to you, the message I got? It's all good, but I just think it needs, can you see?
Oh,
Okay?
I can't check, remember?
Oh, gosh, we gotta find a way. Maybe, all right, maybe call them and check, I don't know. So that, you know, this stuff could be happening as well. It's gonna, you know, the trouble's gonna hit them and they're not gonna know from where it's coming. Isaiah 47 also speaks of the daughter of Babylon, and some excerpts of that. are, you know, like in verse 1, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. There's no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. It goes on, it says, sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of Babylon. Thou shalt no more be called the lady of kingdoms. Is that darkness the grid failure? The darkness that could be felt? That hit Egypt as a plague? Could be, right? I don't know. It could be. I was wroth with my people. That's Isaiah 47, verse 6. I have polluted my inheritance and have given them in thine hand. There's 6 million plus known Jews in the United States, about as many as there are in Israel. Thou didst show them no mercy, upon the ancient hast thou heavily laid thy yoke. Okay, so we're getting the stage set here. In verse 9 it says, these two things, or it really says, these two shall come to thee in a moment, in one day. The loss of children and widowhood. The loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. And that's what drives these people. Remember, they put the arches up on places and stuff like that. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge hath perverted thee. Thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and no one else, and none else beside me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it rises. They're not going to see it coming. Okay? And mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit. If so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly procrastinators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, and none shall save thee. Okay, wander every one to his quarter is the ones going back to the countries they came from. That we find in Jeremiah 50:51. So they're not going to see it coming. All right, right now in the world's relaxed. You know, they don't, well, the ones that read the Bible and know a little bit or try to know prophecy and so forth, they're relaxed. All the blood moons have passed. The Star of Bethlehem came twice, we think, or at least once in June 2015. You know, they're not worried about any signs anymore. They don't know about Zechariah 1:12. They know only false teachings of Daniel. They're waiting for pre-trib raptures, mid-trib raptures. That's the most of them. They don't know what's going on. They don't know. They're remarkably unaware right now. They don't have their guard up. They're just coasting. A lot of people know something's skitsy in the world, like everything's like, you know, people are crazy, and they are, you know. Well, what's going to happen with this controversy of Zion when it's over? With Zechariah 12, 13, and 14, Ezekiel 38, 39, which are probably all the same event. When all that is finished, you're going to have probably a good 5.5 billion people dead or something like that. Billion, not million, billion. Man will be scarcer than fine gold. You're going to have a massive amount of people gone. Massive. So yeah, there's a warning coming. Look, God destroyed the city that's called by his own name, and the people that are called the Israelites several times for their disobedience. Look how the world operates. The Lord's dead, is nailed to the cross. That's just the ones that go to church, and they play with the cross at Tammuz, sticks and stones, and they worship Tammuz on the Sunday, and they worship his birthday on Christmas, and they got aberrant another gospel, and they tell everybody this is the gospel, and this is Jesus, and this and that. And it's just, these people are, I think, very, very broken. I don't know if they're broken beyond repair, but they're broken. You ever try to talk to them and see where you get with it? There's people that sit there and teach that the two witnesses are two Gentiles. Well, how do you get there? I don't know how you get there. I don't know where they get with that. They don't see the restoration of Israel. They see the restoration of the church. You see, they're in a completely different gospel, a completely different thing. Their gospel doesn't match our gospel. It doesn't line up. Not much I can do. All right, I turned the chat on. If anybody has any questions, we'll try this. The chat's operative. It's operating now. If anybody has a question, I know there's a time lag, so we'll let it run. Maybe there are no questions. We'll wait. While we wait and see, we got a prayer request. There's requests for Lima November, LN, Lima November, LN. Having problems with a relative bothering Lima November in a lot of different ways. So LN is asking for prayer about the situation with the relative with extremely abusive behavior towards this person. Okay? So we want to pray LN would have help and success in dealing with that abusive relative bothering them, and the abusive relative would just decide to leave LN alone. That's the only prayer request that I have. Second John, verse 10. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. If For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. I don't know who people are that come into the chat, so I'm certainly not going to give them a greeting like hello or hail or anything like that. I don't know who I'm talking to, and I don't want to violate 2 John 9, 10, and 11, and you shouldn't either. You should learn those scriptures and not do that, because you could be saying that to anybody. Obviously, I blocked and deleted that character. You could see the fruit there. It comes in and sends a greeting to people they don't know. Well, let's make a lesson out of this. Why would they do that? Well, they're already serving the gods of the dead. This one certainly gives me that impression. And wants to get me to give him a greeting, or anybody else. And then look at the fruit that comes forth. Was Enoch captured by extraterrestrials? Yeah, it's not worthy of an answer. So that's what you get. Contact, if you're interested in the IDF, contact your Israel embassy or consulate nearest you. Well, when you do Daniel, I'll take a look at it. You got to be careful that you're dealing with a sealed book. And a lot of the stuff in Daniel was, directed it's a long time ago, a real long time ago. And it's showing us a lot of history, but it's still sealed. So it says, well, it says here, he shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits, return to his own land. I don't know who that is, but who's following the holy covenant over here in Israel these days? I don't know. Very few people would be. It's hard to say what they do. These are the scriptures that are used to make a case for their Antichrist. Well, the scripture in 2 Thessalonians 2 says, even now there are many Antichrists, plural. So it's very difficult to try to understand when this happened or will happen. Very difficult. And a lot of this kicks back to, the great old world conquerors. It would probably be Attila the Hun, Alexander the Great, Napoleons could be in there, the Crusaders could be in there, the popes could be in there. Any of this stuff, queens of England, queens of France, you don't know. You don't know when it was, where it's, the Holy Covenant would be, it would be referencing God's commands, but the Orthodox Jews are following the Talmud. They're not following God's word. Okay? The Messianics aren't. There's a few people that I'm sure are, but very few. It can repeat itself. This time with the restoration of Israel is not going to be a real repeat of itself because of the magnitude of the death and destruction. He says, I will deal with the Gentiles as never before, like never before. This is going to be a devastation coming on them that's different, didn't happen before. So it's not a repeat on this event. Like I said, there's 7 billion people in the world. I don't have an exact number, but the way I see it, at least 5 billion will be gone, maybe 6 even. Tremendous amount of people are going to be gone. Huge amount. So the best thing is to try to refrain from, trying to build on Daniel. I try to always avoid Daniel whenever possible, because it's a sealed book, and you have a tendency to think you're going to get somewhere with Daniel, and you're probably not. You're just going to get tripped up, The argument that because Yeshua said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not be, look, that was not opening up Daniel. What opened? And Yeshua was probably speaking of Herod's temple, the destruction in 70 AD, because that's when he was speaking. No stone will be left up, they'll all be thrown down, stuff like this. That's what I think he was speaking about, okay? Something happened in Herod's temple, but it didn't say there will be, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet as a statue speaking. You see, the entire book of Daniel never speaks of the beast coming out of the sea, the false prophet coming out of the earth, the statue they make that speaks, people having to worship it and take the mark of the beast so they can't buy and sell. Nothing in Daniel mentions this. It's completely absent from Daniel. Completely absent. It's not in there. Okay? So when he says the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel, the beast and the false prophet and the talking statue and the mark of the beast and no buying and selling is a far more comprehensive and complicated scenario and situation than an abomination and desolation, which could simply mean sacrificing an unclean animal on the altar or defacing the holiest of holies. That would lend itself more to an abomination that makes desolate they go out of the temple than a complicated scenario like a beast from the sea and a false prophet from the earth making a statue that speaks. They give life to the statue, and if you don't worship the beast, you're gonna get killed, and you've got to get the mark of the beast in the hand or the forehead. It's not in Matthew 24, and it's not in when it says abomination of desolation. That's not it, and it's not in Daniel, anywhere in Daniel. Go try to find it in Daniel. I can't find it in there. It's not there. It talks about warriors and conquerors going here, going there, but it doesn't talk about anything like this. So this is just another buffoonery coming from the churchianity psychopaths, the witches that call themselves Christians. That's all it is. Look what they do with the concept of the two witnesses. They repeatedly, over and over, reiterate to the people that one is Elijah reincarnated and the other one is Moses. Why? Because on the Mount of Transfiguration there appeared the glorified Elijah and Moses. Yet the disciples, when they saw Elijah and Moses and they were with Yeshua, they said, oh, it's Elijah and Moses, will make shelters for them, right? Yet when John saw, and John was probably there, and when John saw the two witnesses in his vision or dream in Revelation 11, he did not say, oh, look, there's Elijah and Moses. He never said that. If the church is saying it, it's probably not true. And some of the churches playing with the 13th month, aren't they? You know, so I don't believe it to be true. The Elijah and Moses thing, nor the 13th month. So you got to learn that if the church teaches it, Satan comes as a father, as an angel of light, and he's the father of lies, and there's no truth in him. No truth in him means you will not get good fruit from his trees. His churches are not going to give you good fruit. They're only going to give you bad fruit. By the fruit you shall know them. By doctrine. Doctrine is fruit. That's how you're going to know them. Okay? When the two witnesses are here, they're going to integrate a temple with the glory of God, with the Holy Spirit, with the gifts of the Spirit, with the sacrifices, with knowing who Yeshua is, accessing God the Father through Yeshua, and tying everything together. And that's what their message is going to be. Not what churchianity talks about. Churchianity is just going to be getting in the way. They won't be with us very long. It's just going to be in the way. Oh, the church is really not a big player here. It's deception. You know, there's not much in the Bible about the church. It's not much there. It's just something that's here and it goes away. It's really the church of the tares. Now, we've all been in it, I think. And it's been going on for a long time, since 70 AD. 70 AD. Have they persecuted believers? Yeah, in different forms. The Catholics is a form of churchianity, nothing but. Would I say Islam's a form of churchianity? Yeah, but it's a far-fetched, remote one, but it is. It is a form of churchianity. They say Jesus is a prophet. They do. That brings them into a churchianity mode, but they have a different Bible. Well, the mainstream churches have a different gospel. They have a different Bible and a different gospel. It's not really churchianity, but it's like that. Look, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Catholics, the evangelicals, it's all false churches. You know, the Mormons, false churches. That's all it is. That's all it is. When Yeshua is gone, it's night and no man could work. And that they say they can work. Sure they can work. What are they working? They're working the deeds in the night, the deeds of darkness. That's what they're working. That's what they're working. There's no light in them. Their light is darkness. That's what they're doing. That's what they do. All right. Please pray for me and Rivka. Pray for us to have good doctrine, peace, and joy, and strength, stamina, and endurance, and healing of our bodies and our finances. And pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. Pray for the two witnesses. Pray to come to Israel if you want to. And you should be praying about that. And I'll put links in the description box for offerings for those of you that wish to make an offering. We're doing it with Western Union and MoneyGram right now. I believe most of the world is covered with either MoneyGram or Western Union. A lot of people are able to give online with that. So you could try that. Sometimes you can't. They think of Israel as not a real secure country because we got all these Palestinians here that are bad dudes. So it shouldn't be a problem. No, people are able to give very. Our giving is stepping back up since Christmas, but it's still down pretty bad. Once we got off the fundraisers, it got pretty hard to raise money for some reason. Although I can't imagine you being more secure than with MoneyGram or Western Union. The problem with these fundraisers is they could freeze your account, and then you have no money. They just hold it. And what are you going to do? Go hire a lawyer and go after them? Well, that works. If they froze $400,000, you could go get a law firm, and, you know, maybe for 10 or 20% of what you got, they'd go after them. But we don't have anything like that. So they're risky. And then what happens if they freeze the money is the person you're intending the funds for doesn't get it, and you might not get it back for some time. You've got to go do a chargeback. And these fundraiser places are difficult to do chargebacks on because they disperse funds relatively quickly. So it's a problem. You know, don't kid yourself. It's a problem. You got to be careful with that. That's, you know, what we did. So we don't know of any other way to do it. PayPal, of course, in a perfect world would be a better system, but could you imagine, you know, first problem is you can only use PayPal in Israel to receive money from inside Israel. So you can only receive in shekels. You can't receive in a foreign currency unless you file a non-profit corporation, and then I become an Israeli 501c3, and I have no interest in doing that because that's wrong. So it makes it difficult, and there's a limited amount or a small amount of people that are willing to give, and that's, of course, makes it problematic. There's not much I can do about it. It's the nature of the beast, and it's like that, and it always, I guess, will be like that. We'll just try to build it up again. It's improving, but it's still slipping behind. That's, if anybody's interested, that's what's going on. Also, I started doing a lot with just Bible studies, and that drove people away. Which, as far as I'm concerned, so be it. They have no interest in hearing the Word of God. They just want to play games with Intel. You know, what's going on with Israel and stuff like that. So I think everything is primed for it to start happening, because the Israelis aren't suspicious or suspecting, neither is the church world. You know, maybe the few people that listen to me are, but that's few, what, a few hundred. Maybe after a few days my videos get, I don't know, 4 or 5, even 600 views. That's about it. They don't take a lot of views, and a lot of people don't watch the whole video. There's not that many people out here that want the truth, that are looking for the truth and want the truth. There's not many people. There really aren't. And that's just the way it is. So, if there's any new developments of any interest, I'll do a subsequent follow-up video. I'll try to get back on the Bible study track more tomorrow. We'll see what the Lord has in store. Today in the morning, well, until lunchtime, we were running around We had to do some stuff. You know, you got to do different things. We had to pick something up at a post office. We had to go to Western Union. We had to do this and that, and you know, it takes time. And then you know, you come home and you start trying to deliver the message. And these complicated Bible studies usually take a good 3 hours of preparation, 4 hours, and then you deliver it. So it's, I didn't have the time for that today, and I didn't have the leading to do any of these scriptures. So I don't know what else. I'm trying to think what else is relevant. We're hearing a lot of aircraft regarding Syria. I think we're keeping aircraft in the air a lot, fighter jets, and if something happens in Syria, they could, I mean, they're already up in the air, they just, you know, probably a minute or less they're there. So the American troops are in Syria, there's several hundred more, so perhaps the Americans are using us to back up their troops. So if they're surrounded and they're in danger of being overrun, Israeli aircraft can go in and save them. Although there's supposedly some kind of airstrip that America has up there in Syria or in Turkey, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm told that our F-35s have been in combat, and they're still telling us that we just have 2 F-35s, which, according to my count, we've got about 5. But I don't know. I mean, that's what I remember reading about. So I think it's more than 2 in any event. So they're pretty positive of their F-35s, and I imagine those are the ones that are dancing around the S-300 missile. So there's a lot of talk about how bad the F-35 is. Well, we never would have bought it if they were that bad. And we also retrofit them. So we could change the radar, the infrared, the countermeasures, the attack stuff. And we put our Elbit 360-degree virtual helmets in the planes, and a lot of things, which America's going to start using. Israel has good high tech. They can do stuff like that, you know. And their medical system is a pain in the neck, but it does kind of work, you know. Everything's hard to use, you know. Like I had a prescription for some stuff, and I went to go fill it, and I read it backwards because you know, I looked at it in a hurry, and the dates in Israel go different directions, so I saw it going from February to March, and I thought it was going from March. It was starting in March, so it finished in March, so the prescription was actually over the previous day. So I go to the drugstore and I go to fill it, and he says, no, they're not going to pay for it, I can't fill it. So I said, what the heck is this? So I went to the big drugstore, and they looked at it, they went in the back, they did something, I don't know, they called or whatever, and came back and gave it to me. Now, these drugs would have cost in the U.S., it was an eye drop, it probably would have cost $125 a bottle, as a guess. So it was like $250 worth of stuff. And the deductible that I would pay, it sells cheaper in Israel, because I think they make it in Israel. And I probably would have paid deductible $8 for 2 bottles, like $4 a bottle. See, there's stuff that it's really cheap. My wife broke her toe, she had to get this and that. I mean, I think it costs $10 or $12 for the whole thing. $15 maybe. Didn't cost much. It really didn't cost much. And then she had to go leave a deposit, a very small deposit, to get some crutches, and then somebody else's husband broke their foot and wanted to borrow the crutches, so she gave him the crutches, and I don't think they ever returned them and gave them back. I think we lost the deposit. Yeah, this is what you get. Or maybe they did, I don't know. I think she was going to go to their house. It's just, you know, it's what you get. You know, it's not much you're going to do about it. All right, so what else can I tell you? I don't know, that's about it. So, if you guys got questions, there's an email address in the description box of the video. If you have prayer requests, there's an email address in the description box of the video. And, you know, pray that my wife and I line up on this stuff. It's, you know, it's something that I just got to work through. It's not that it's a, you know, it's some crazy, it's, anyway, just pray that it gets worked through, you know. And we'll see. I think everything's set for something to really come down, but we'll have to see. That's what I got. Okay, I may from time to time put the chat on a little bit. We'll see how that goes. Moshe out.